Hello and welcome to another Worldviz webinar. We're really excited to have you today and for our topic, which is classroom VR solutions for higher education. This is a topic we're really excited to have. We've had a lot of exciting developments in this area over the last couple of years. So we'll be talking about some different use cases and different technology. It's going to be a great session. So usually what we do is we wait for a couple of minutes just to make sure that everybody's in here. But since we've got a super full schedule today, I think we're just going to jump right into our presentation. Folks, as they come in, we welcome you. So it's early in the morning here on the West Coast of the United States, but we're looking forward to a global audience today. And we even have a guest speaker from Cyprus. So we've got folks in Europe, on the East Coast, and all over the world. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. So my name is Dan. I'm the head of sales here for the Americas and at Worldviz. And then I've also got my colleague in the room next door here in Santa Barbara, Sado Rabauti. He's the product manager for Vizard and SiteLab. Those are our core VR development tools. And then a special guest joining us today as well, Petros Luka from the University of Cyprus. He is a Worldviz customer, and he's going to talk about his VR classroom that they've set up there at the University of Cyprus, which involves 40 VR headsets, 40 PCs. So we're really excited to hear about Petros's work and the research and the immersive experiences that they're building. I know we have a lot of guests joining us from BioPack today. Petros works with BioPack as well as Worldviz software to conduct some really exciting research. So we're grateful to our friends from BioPack who are joining us as well. We'll definitely be talking about that a little bit as well. So let's jump right in. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering today. So first, we're going to introduce Worldviz for those of you who aren't familiar with our company or the products that we have. After that, we're going to start to look at, what does a Worldviz VR classroom look like? We'll actually give you kind of a step-by-step vision of how we've built real, actual VR classrooms out in the wild at customer locations. We'll show you what those look like and our kind of specific vision for what this technology can do. After that, I'll give you a really brief demonstration of the system that I have behind me, which is our PRISM Immersive Theater, and show how those connect with traditional VR headsets, right? So that's a really kind of key concept that we'll be covering today is how do we have these immersive rooms that combine with headsets to engage audiences who might not be wearing, head-mounted displays. After that, we'll actually hand it over to Sado, who'll give a demonstration of how our no-code VR curriculum authoring tool works. We call it eLearning Lab. And from there, we'll talk about how eLearning Lab uses our SiteLab VR software's research capabilities. Then we'll hand it over to Petros to talk about the University of Cyprus. And at the end of all of that, we'll have a question and answer round. So we actually have some really good questions that came in before the webinar from our colleagues at BioPack. So we've copied a few of those to the end. But there is an open question section. So anytime you have a question, just type it there. We'll do our best to answer those at the very end. So without further ado, let's get into our first. Here, I actually have to launch my poll here. If I go to we've got a poll that's going out to you guys right now. So if you don't mind filling out the poll that's on your screen right now, we'd love to know a little bit about how you all are using VR. So I see the answers are coming in right now, which is great. A lot of folks are saying they're exploring VR. So the more that we get, all right, 52% voted. This is perfect. Let's see. And don't worry, I'll share these results so everybody else can see them as well. So one of the answers is active use, research, or teaching. I would just say select the one that's most relevant to you. So let's go ahead and I'll share these results. So if you can take a look right now, you should be able to see that most of the folks in the webinar who've responded are either not currently using VR or just exploring it right now. So that's great. We'll definitely be able to cover a lot of that, but I'm also glad to see a lot of folks are using VR actively in their work as well. So getting back into our presentation, a little bit about Worldviz. If you're unfamiliar with us, we've been around for almost 25 years. Next year is our 25th anniversary as a company. And throughout that entire time, we've really served our core market of research and academic customers who are using VR for human behavioral research, and a lot of other areas of application: architecture, engineering, construction, a whole wide range of things that you can do with virtual reality. But we've been around for almost 25 years. We've done a lot over that time. And really our kind of core software tools and core identity is built around serving a human research market. So that could be neuroscience, psychology, physiology, but also some computer science as well. So if you're interested to know more about Worldviz customers, I recommend this Worldviz Partners in Science report. I'll just click to this really quickly. So if you take a look at this on our website underneath academic research, you'll find published academic studies. This has over 750 papers that have been published by Worldviz customers over the last 5-6 years. And if you just click into any of these reports, you'll see, wow, there's in all these different areas, many studies that we have links to. So you can get a really good overview of what other folks are doing in the world of virtual reality research today. So I recommend checking that out. That's a great resource. Getting into the kind of core topic about our subject today, we're talking about not necessarily the research as much as just experiential VR labs. What is a VR lab? A VR lab at a university can be just as simple as what you're seeing right here. Just a person in a headset, usually a computer that allows you to author. In many cases, having a computer to push content to the headset is also extremely useful. Our software is PC in the loop. So if you look at the different options on the screen right now, you can sort of see the full range of what a VR lab might be, right? Starting out with just a single person in a headset, going all the way up to a huge immersive room where either you've got 3D projection or immersive projection walls, multiple headset users. And it's, traditionally, a VR lab was really a research-oriented space, but now it's almost becoming more like a lab in the sense of a chemistry lab where students are going in and getting hands-on with virtual experiments, right? So that starts to bleed into what we would call a VR classroom. Why a VR lab for education? So what's really cool about virtual reality is, unlike a chemistry lab, you've got the ability to do, pretty much any subject matter you want in a virtual reality experience. So it's cross-disciplinary. Anybody at the university can come in. One day you're doing some media studies. The next day you're doing some anatomy studies. So it can really be used by different stakeholders within an organization. What's really cool is, and something we'll be talking about today, is drag and drop curriculum development. Traditionally, VR content has really been bottlenecked by the fact that you need to be a game developer. You need to know how to use Unity, Unreal, any of these kind of complex game engines. You have to basically go to school for years just to be able to make a VR experience. That is no longer the case. There are really easy to use tools. We'll be showing ours, which allows, almost PowerPoint level of ease to drag and drop and create VR experiences that then multiple users can join. As you can see in this VR lab picture, we have many people sitting at their VR workstations. They're all able to join in a shared virtual environment. So we'll be able to demo that a little bit later. So one of the cool things also about Worldviz VR systems, our software tool is just one piece of the puzzle. You can bring any tool that you want. You're not locked into a specific ecosystem. We just provide a nice framework that then your lab can basically use it as any other computer lab, right? And then what's really cool too, and this kind of serves our core research market, there's research grade data collection built into all of our tools. So, if you're connecting to physiology like BioPack, you can run these lessons and actually take incredibly detailed data on where's the person looking, what are they interacting with, what are they picking up, so, and the whole session gets recorded as well if you are running studies. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. I've alluded to some of these tools already. eLearning Lab is what we call our drag and drop software tool that you can see is pictured here. eLearning Lab is built on top of the Worldviz VR engine, which is Vizard. Vizard is our, unlike any other tools, it's actually fully an in-house engine that we have maintained for many, many years. And part of Vizard is also a tool that we call SiteLab, which provides a GUI layer on top of our core Python development Vizard engine. And that GUI layer allows you to create VR experiments and actually, makes data collection, all those things a lot easier. So that's the two Worldviz tools, and eLearning Lab sits on top of those as a multi-user drag and drop curriculum authoring content experience. It might be a little confusing. There's a lot of different pieces there, but if you got any questions about it, we'd be happy to answer them. The other part that we've talked about now is the PRISM immersive projection wall, which is the thing that I have behind me right here. What's really cool is that these headsets actually connect with that PRISM wall. So let's say you've got a couple of people in headsets and you've got the wall on. You can actually output onto the wall behind you an experience where there's multiple people interacting with each other, and then an entire audience gets to be engaged in the content that they're experiencing in front of them. So if a teacher wants to lead a class in a VR headset, they can actually output the entire experience from a third person over the shoulder view and show students, a dissection as they're taking apart, a virtual cadaver or something like that. So this is just a little bit of the tools we've already talked about. I'll just kind of keep it moving here. Rather than talking about all these things in the abstract, I wanted to actually zoom in on a specific Worldviz customer. This is LaSalle University outside of Boston. So at LaSalle, we brought all of these pieces together. A lot of these pictures that you're seeing are of their facility. You can check out this YouTube video that we have on our website, but I'll go ahead and just show you the floor plan first. So to give you a bird's eye view of what's going on in this VR classroom. So as part of what we do, we are always helping design these facilities. Folks come to us with, hey, we've got a room, what can we put in here? So this is the design that we came up with for LaSalle University. There's 12 workstations, each with VR headsets, arranged around the classroom, and then this massive touch-enabled immersive wall that goes all the way wall to wall, this red line that you can see here. So this was actually originally 2 classrooms, and they demolished the middle wall and joined them into this one ultra-large, super immersive space that acts as a computer lab. It's cross-disciplinary. And what's really cool is they actually installed windows on the hallway here. So this is a pretty high traffic area. And as students, visitors walk by, they have the projection room on. Folks can see, hey, this is a really cool and immersive space. So it's become a real hub for the campus. It's the kind of first stop on the campus tour in many cases. And they actually have an interactive map that they show everybody of the campus, different sports practices and things like that. So it's a pretty fun, immersive presentation space just for a lot of different folks at the university. Here's a quick video that just walks you through side to side. This is before the complete space was finished. This is while we were doing our training. But you can see this is a 360 video playing in the background. This is a huge wall. We can't even get it all in one camera shot. And then it's showing the computer workstations in the foreground. So this is basically the LaSalle VR classroom in a nutshell. So here's a quick demonstration of the immersive PRISM theater here at our headquarters in Santa Barbara, California. So this is a completely surround theater. It uses ultra short throw projectors, which allow us to cast a totally immersive, almost floor to ceiling image without casting a shadow as the user gets really close. So I'm all the way almost touching the wall and still not casting a shadow. What's really cool about this space is it's actually touch activated. So as I walk up to the wall, I can just select one of these tiles and I'm instantly transported to the streets of Tokyo. So this is a really cool way to create engaging educational content with pretty low effort. This is just a 360 video that we got off of YouTube, and we just dropped it directly into this environment. So if I go ahead and backswipe here, I can go back to my gallery mode. This is all the different environments that I've preloaded and have at my fingertips. And I'll show you what a little bit more of a detailed lesson looks like. So this, for instance, is a map of the Channel Islands, which are right off the coast of Santa Barbara. It's difficult to get to the Channel Islands without a boat in a few hours. So this is a nice way that we can actually travel out there virtually. So just by touching the wall, I can bring up these preloaded layers, these different hotspots that we've added to create further information. So if I wanted to know what Forney's Cove looks like, I can click on that and it'll bring up a picture of that space. So you can have all sorts of different things like videos or PDFs. If you wanted to have the flora and fauna of the island, you could add that. And then of course we can also add 360 video. So this is now taking us on a little cruise right off the coast of the islands. So this is a really engaging and fun way to have an audience come in, to have K through 12 students, also higher education students, really get to go to these immersive spaces. And yeah, it's quite easy to author content as well. So we see this being combined with headsets, but also acting as a standalone experience so people can just use it as an immersive presentation space. This is a pretty awesome technology that we've definitely seen growing in adoption over the last few years, as it offers a way to get a large audience into an immersive experience without having to put on headsets. And it's really easy to make content for it as well. So yeah, back to the presentation and the rest of our VR classroom content. So really quick overview of what the PRISM Theater involves. I already kind of talked about that quite a bit. So this is what it actually looks like when you combine a headset with the system. So it might be a little bit blurry right now on your end. That's choppy just because of the way that the GoToWebinar broadcast works. But I'll just pause it right there for a second. You can see this is a headset from a third person behind the shoulder. They're doing an anatomy lesson right now where they can actually take it apart. And you'll see as we pan the camera over to the left, you'll actually see the instructor who's also in a VR headset, and they're in this shared environment together. So when you're operating the system, you have the ability to manipulate the camera in real time. So you can see that's one person looking in one direction, and it's a real-time view into the classroom. So you get this really kind of awesome way of seeing. I always think of it as almost like a dance studio mirror. So when you have a whole wall and you're doing your calisthenics in front of the dance studio mirror, this is a mirror into the virtual environment that all the students and teachers are in together. So it gives you this ability to have these really cool over-the-shoulder views of what's going on in the virtual world, because not everybody wants to put a headset on. And sometimes it's impractical to have everybody in a headset. So this allows you to really have this ultra large, super immersive and engaging experience with a larger audience. Yeah, I've already talked about this a little bit. You can cast a desktop to the wall, so it becomes really kind of a flexible space. Some folks are using it for esports. It really is just a flexible environment. And then these are the student workstations. Each system comes with, a full top of the line PC, headset, gamepad and controller if you want that for esports purposes. And then of course, these projection environments are super flexible. We can basically build them to any sized room. I mean, this I think is like a 35-foot room. You basically can just combine multiple projectors side by side to create wider and wider spaces. You can curve some of them. So we've got, I think the largest system that we have is at Yale University, and it's 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. It's called the Beam Lab. So that's a pretty impressive space as well. So yeah, day in the VR classroom. Basically, what we'll get into next is how the software actually works, but teacher can drag and drop, create the content, deploy it to the headsets. Students get to put the headsets on. They can experience it, actually in 3D or watch along on the wall. As you can see here, we have two students in headsets, and then you can see their avatars on the wall and their teacher over here passing them the virtual anatomy lesson content. And then at the end, basically, you can analyze the experience. So a lot of folks are doing research based on what's going on in these VR lessons. So, and that's where our VR software really shines, is we can actually take eye tracking, interactions, add quizzes, all of this. So whether or not you're just tracking students' attention or really for research purposes, this is a really powerful tool. So we have one more poll for you now that we're at this section. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch this poll. So now that you know a little bit about VR labs, we'd love to know what would be the biggest win for your institution if you had a dedicated VR lab. So right now, the options are higher student engagement and retention, improved learning outcomes, attracting students with cutting edge facilities, conducting immersive research, other. So yes, if you, this is exciting right now. I think we've got, it looks like research and improved learning outcomes are racing each other for the top spot right now. So we really appreciate everybody participating in this. This is extremely helpful, and we'll share the results obviously live here. So I think we've gotten everybody to Got 60% have voted. Thank you to everybody who has voted. I'll go ahead and share that now. So 44% said improved learning outcomes and assessment. So I think that that's a pretty clear winner, with another 28% in second place conducting immersive research. So I think you guys are in the right spot. We're definitely gonna have Sato now take over and give you a little bit of a look at how our VR tool actually works in terms of authoring that immersive learning content. So Sato, you want to take it from here?
Yep. Okay, so you guys can see my screen?
Yep, we got you.
All right. Yeah, so mostly what I'm going to be showing today is the no coding application that's built on our Vizard and SiteLab software that we're calling eLearning Lab. And this is designed for education or immersive presentations, but also for research. And you could combine drag and drop authoring with a whole lot of AI integrations now. And you could take, for instance, like 3D models, 360 media, images, PowerPoints, quizzes, and you could kind of combine a whole lot of different media. And then it will all work with multi-user. And then you could then measure learning, attention, and interactions with the data collection. There's a full replay and analytics. And then the thing that we've been recently building up are these AI agents that you could bring in. And these could be used as instructional tutors or guides, or also for like role playing. And they could do speech and text interaction with support for over 40 languages. They have the ability to be contextually aware of the content that they're tutoring on. So you can, for instance, feed it like your learning material, PowerPoints, images, text files. And it's pretty simple to just build up the knowledge so that the AI agent understands what it's tutoring, and then it can answer questions, it can present. It could also just read like narrations that you want it to read alongside certain slides. It can give point and click explanations. When you click on an object, for instance, it can give you information about that object, because it also has built-in vision capabilities. And it even has the ability to control its own like reactions, like facial expressions and things like that, based off of how it kind of is interpreting the situation. And again, these could also be used for role playing too. So like if you wanted to have one playing the role of a patient or a job interviewer, or any kind of situation where you want to have someone do some interactions, and that's just really just modifying a text file, and then it could play that role. And these could run offline or online, so they connect with all the different large language models. So everything from ChatGPT and Anthropic and Gemini to offline with the Llama. So you could use Gemma 3, DeepSeek, all of these different models, and then also all of the different text-to-speech models. So you could use 11 Labs or OpenAI, or even like offline ones like Kokoro and Piper. And then additionally, then it also connects to a large selection of avatar libraries. So you could use like Reallusion, Ready Player Me, Mixamo. And so you have a lot of options. And then for building a presentation, as I mentioned, you could drag in 3D models and 3D and media, but you can also upload your own PDFs, your own PowerPoints, text files, images, and documents that could then be used to start building a presentation. And that information could be fed to the AI agent, so it could have discussions around this content and kind of be used as a tutor as well. And then it can generate quizzes based on your content, or you can put in your own quizzes, which I'll show you in a minute. And there's even an experimental kind of AI content generation where it can take your uploaded content and it can generate things like 360 images or videos or stereoscopic images and kind of create slides that way. And here I also have some links to some PowerPoint lessons if you just wanted to have ones to explore, because you could basically upload a PowerPoint, it could analyze that with vision, understand what this is about, and be used to teach that content. And if you're doing something kind of like training based, you can also go and set object interactions, such as like highlighting the key object that someone needs to pay attention to, and then you wait for them to grab that object, and then you could set animations. So this would be like if you're doing some kind of equipment training or something like that. And again, this all works with a shared multi-user environments, and then the instructor could come in and they could have additional controls. So they get a 3D menu where they could guide students through the presentation. They could play and pause and do things like that. And this could work both in person, but also it could work remotely. So you could have people come in from different parts of the world and be in the same session. And then since this is built on the Sitelab and Vizard platform, you can then do all of the data logging. So there's a whole bunch of built-in data that will just automatically, you'll be able to replay and visualize that data with like heat maps and walk paths and scan paths. And you could customize your experiment because everything here can also be fully extended with Python code. I mean, everything I'm showing today is fully no code, but under the hood, there's even the ability to use Python. And with that, we have a custom AI coding assistant that you could use where you could it's trained on all of the documentation, all of the code base. So you could do vibe coding, for instance, and create pretty complex experiments. And there's even access to a very large library of templates we're not going to get into today, but we have additional content on the whole Sitelab and Vizard package and how this all works with the e-learning lab. And this also will connect with a very large collection of hardware because over the last 20 years, we've integrated with all the different headsets and sensors like eye tracking, hand tracking, face tracking, full body tracking, projection VR. So like as Dan was showing, you could do the bird's eye view and projection. And also the BioPack Physio data, we have a very tight integration with BioPack. And speaking of BioPack, I also wanted to mention this thing called the BioPack Student Lab. So they also have this at Cyprus. And this is something that pairs really well. So it has more than 65 practical physiology lessons that are already part of curriculum in universities all over the world. And this allows you to combine VR and the recording of physio signals so students can improve their learning outcomes. And this is also easy to deploy with FNIRS equipment, so this can be combined with the e-learning lab. And this can help students learn about cognitive processes or also help educators to learn more about the impact of their own teaching methods on student workload and attention. And so this is the ways that we can integrate with that. But now I'm just going to kind of jump into a demo here. And what I'm going to show is the full process of just building a very simple immersive lesson, starting with a blank project, showing you how you can bring in your own environments and teaching assets, and then add interactive objects and media, and then how the AI agents kind of automatically are built in with that, and then run it single and multi-user, and then just show really quickly the data collection and replay. And so now this is where you start with the project browser. So from here, I could start from a blank lesson or reuse an existing presentation or build from one of the included examples. So you could start as simple or as complex as you want. There's also additional lessons online. So any of these you could just drag and drop into your browser. You can also just create your own custom library of your own lessons that you're kind of using with your institution. And you can access the documentation, getting started tutorials. But what I'm going to start with here is just starting with a new project. So I'll just say like new anatomy test, just call it whatever I want. And so now I'm here with just a blank session. And what I could do first is I could now set the learning context. And so I could just drag in like a 3D model here. So I just dragged in this model. And now I have this interactive preview window. I could kind of look around, and here I could go and start modifying my scene, and I could click edit. And there's this built-in 3D model editor where we could do additional things like set the starting point of where the students and the instructor are going to start. I could add lighting. I could add additional objects. And by the way, there's a lot of different places to get 3D models. So we have a lot of built-in 3D models. There's access to an online browser that we give you, but you can also connect. So there's a built-in connection with this tool called Sketchfab. And if you're not familiar with Sketchfab, there's actually over 150,000 Creative Commons free models, and you can search for pretty much anything, and you download it, it'll be immediately available in your session. And pretty much anywhere, like all the different main model formats, so like GLTF, GLB, FBX. There's even the ability that if you wanted to, you could generate assets using text prompts and images, because there's connections to tools like Meshi and things like that. But if I was just going to now want to just add an object, so I could just show you, it's really simply, I'll just search Sketchfab for heart. And now if I click download, this will download pretty quick because it's a small model. And so you see here, and this is going to be 6.9 megabytes. And then once it downloads, I could just drag it right into my scene. And now it's downloaded, and now I could drag and drop this into the model that I have here. And now we have these, probably familiar if you've used any 3D modeling program, these tools to kind of set where you want this to be. And I could just place this. I guess that's fine. And then I click save. And now immediately it's going to update. And so now I have this object that I can now make interactive. So I could click target, which will then target it for getting information from the AI agent when I point at it. And it's also, if you're wearing like an eye tracked headset, it could target like how many times did somebody view that object. If you're looking at that data, I could set it as grabbable. I could turn on animation. So this has like a animation, or I could create custom animations. So if I wanted to, I could set things like maybe I want it to spin or I want to highlight it. So this could be like per slide, you might want to add some of those animations. But for now, this is an object now that I could have as an interactable object. And now I'm going to show you how you could add some additional media. So things like 360 and videos and images. So on the images tab, there's the ability to connect to things like Wikimedia. So this is also one that has a lot of images that you could just use that are Creative Commons free, but you could obviously drag in images from anywhere, like Google. You could also generate with tools like Nano Banana if you wanted to go that route. But I'm just going to drag this in. And if you have this TV screen object, it's just going to map it to that. Otherwise, it'll create, like, it could create an IMAX style theater automatically on any environment. But now you could see I have this image now available on there. And now I'm just going to go and add another environment really quick. So I'll just drag in this other model. And now what I could do is I could add a video. So this is just a video I got off YouTube, which is also a good place if you find content that you want to use, or you could get videos from anywhere that works. You could just drag them in. And by the way, these could be stereoscopic or monoscopic. And what we have built into our tool also is the ability to turn any monoscopic image into a stereoscopic image. So then it becomes a little more immersive that way. And now on the audio tab, you could add text files, and these are going to be read by the text-to-speech AI agent. And so whatever you put in here, it'll just read on the slide, or you could obviously add your own like actual audio files, like so this can all be ran in the audio format. But now when I add this, it's also going to take the same context and feed that to the AI agent, so it knows what it's talking about. And when you ask questions, it knows what it was actually telling you. And here's where you could change the options. I'm using ChatGPT right now, but I could change it to offline Llama or Claude or Gemini. I could change from the avatars that I've included, text-to-speech. I could change the language, turn on these options. And this is also where you could go and feed additional information. So this would be if you wanted to give more context to the AI agent, or even if you wanted to say, like, this is where you could say, like, you're a patient about to have surgery, and you could have a full, like, role-playing context. You would just drag and drop that text file in that way. And so now on the 360 media tab, I could also just drag and drop anything into here or out of here. And now I could do mono or stereo 360 media. And so this is inside of the human body. And also, I mean, you could, if it works out for your particular session, you could also generate 360 videos and images with this tool, because it has built-in connections to Veo and Nano Banana, and you can actually have 360 media, even stereoscopic, that's generated from your content as well, if that also works out. And now I could cast, if I wanted to cast my desktop as an instructor to the other people that are joining the session. This allows me to cast my desktop, and this could be I could share whatever I'm viewing on my computer now will be cast onto this session. And then over here on the quiz section, so these are where you could just set up your own questions and answers, and then you put what is the correct answer, and then it'll keep track of how the student performed, how many times it took them to get this correct, and then you could just drag that right in, and then now that'll play. And by the way, if you upload your own content, so if I go and say like I want to upload my own text files, images, Word documents, whatever, there's the ability to say like generate quiz, and then it'll generate from that. But now that I have this set up, I'm just going to show that if I run this now, I could choose single or multi-user, and I could choose from the different hardware here. So I'm going to choose desktop. And now this is loading up all of the models, and then this is if I'll show you after this when you connect multi-user how that works. And so now also the if the frame rate looks a little weird, I don't know. I mean, it might be sometimes go to webinar, the frame rate might not look so smooth, but for me, it's very smooth. And the other thing I should mention is when I get information from the agent, it might be a little hard to hear. I'll try to hold my microphone up because it's playing out of my monitor.
That's the heart, a muscular organ in your chest that pumps blood throughout your body. It has 4 chambers.
And I could ask a follow-up question. How much does the heart weigh?
An adult human heart weighs about 250 to 350 grams. Women often...
Okay, and then I could, here is where I could also show you, like, you could turn the AI agent on, and this is reading the narration, and I could pause and ask more questions because now it knows it's giving this presentation. And then this is the 360 image here where we're inside the human body. This is actually a stereoscopic one, so it's pretty immersive in that way where you're floating around inside of the human body. And now this is where I'm just casting my screen, which that's just what's on my screen right now. And this is when a student is wearing the headset, this would show in their headset that they could use their controller to answer these questions. And if you answer it wrong, it'll show in red. You answer right, it'll let you continue, or you could skip. And then I could just go through and kind of answer those questions. And now that I ran this, now I could show, I could run the session replay. And this is also optional. Like if you don't need this, you could turn off the saving of the data. But now this is basically allowing me to now play this all back. And I could pause this. I could scrub through. I could change the different visualizations. And since I was running this is the acknowledge software from Biopack, and it shows that there's events of when I interact with objects, when I grab these objects. So this is just sample EEG data. So obviously I wasn't wearing any sensors, but if I was, that would be showing if it was heart rate or whatever the sensor was, you would see that. And I could also now scrub through and see, oh, I need to click. Yeah, now see, I could scrub through and it actually shows what the physio is at that time when someone is interacting with this particular part of the scene. And I could toggle off all of these visualizations. I could look at the data files. And there's a whole lot of data. We're obviously not going to get into what all of this is right now, but just to really quickly show you that there's a ton of data that you can immediately just out of the box access. And so you get that, like head position. If you're wearing eye tracking, it can show like where the eyes focus, where you're in fixations or saccades, and there's all kinds of data files that we can give you more information on that later. And so now if I just run this now multi-user, so now if I go back and choose instructor, and what this can do now is it can allow me to choose, I connect to the server and I could choose different avatars. So I could just, whatever avatars I just drag and drop in here, and these could be from different libraries. You could have avatars that look like yourself. And I could even just head and hands, or I could just use the generic ones. Now, if I click continue, again, you could choose your hardware. And now when this starts, I'm going to have a 3D menu that will come up. And now I could just see, like, I have the screen. I could see what it's on the screen. I could look at the controls. I could go and switch to the next slide.
Veins or blood vessels.
And then I could play and pause, or I could freeze the student. So there's a lot of options, and that's really just a very simple sort of breakdown. I mean, this is just kind of showing you that you could just drag and drop this media, and you could go and also just generate additional content. But at this point, I think we're gonna switch over back to Petros, and he can talk about some of the things that they've actually been using this with at their lab in Cyprus.
Yes, thank you, Sado. It's great to share my screen.
You should have share access now, Petros.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Seda.
Hello, and thank you for joining. I will be presenting the design and implementation of the Teaching and Research Lab VR Lab at the University of Cyprus. It is the largest public university in the country and is located in the Eastern Mediterranean. It is a landmark initiative representing an investment of over €500,000 that brings together immersive technologies and neurophysiological data to support advanced research and collaborative learning. I will briefly cover the vision, the technical approach, the infrastructure we have deployed, and how the lab is currently being used before outlining our next steps. It is a 40-user teaching and research VR lab. It supports both large-scale immersive classroom instruction and research-grade experimental workflows. It is an initiative led by the Faculty of Social Sciences and Education of the University of Cyprus, and the IT infrastructure service had the technical lead and implementation. It was delivered through structured public procurement procedures with close collaboration with the vendors across our phases. Regarding the vision and objectives of the lab, to create a regionally significant facility that enables large-scale, immersive, and neurophysiological research. To enable multi-user real-time synchronization between VR interactions and neurophysiological signals. To provide infrastructure for controlled experimental environments, support interdisciplinary research and teaching, priority to be used by the faculty's 4 departments, which are Department of Education, Department of Psychology, Department of Social and Political Sciences, and Department of Law. Also, in addition to this, to build a scalable foundation for future XR and AI integration. I would like to thank Worldviz for publishing a dedicated web page for our use case, which can be accessed through the email newsletter that was sent to you and through this web address here from the use cases of Worldviz ecosystem. Going forward to the next slide, we utilize basically the whole ecosystem of Worldviz, which is Wizard and Scilab Pro for custom experiment design and research analytics. We use, of course, e-learning lab that offers no-code immersive lesson creation with multi-user classroom delivery and AI-assisted scenario creations. It offers event-driven synchronization between VR interactions and the biopaca knowledge, neurophysiological data collection. And in addition to this, it deploys AI-powered avatars for multilingual conversations, both in English and Greek. We'd also like to thank Worldviz for adding Greek language support, as it is our official language at the university. Finally, it offers also 3D session replay, as we saw earlier, with synchronized behavior and physiological data streams. In the lab, there were 40 HP high-performance workstations installed. High performance in terms of both CPU and GPU with 16 gigabytes of video RAM. We deliberately chose large video RAM to run machine learning models locally, as we see later on. Each one has attached an HTC Vive Focus Vision headset, which offers integrated eye and hand tracking, and also with the HTC add-on module, facial expressions tracking. We use, of course, BioPack BSL for the physiological monitoring, like heart rate and skin conductance. And for neuroimaging, we use MetalOpt FNIRS during the VR tasks. In addition to this, we use for full body tracking the Sony Mocopi device. And as mentioned earlier, we should use the whole ecosystem of Worldviz and the BioPack knowledge software. In order to be able to run the machine learning models locally, we installed Olama desktop by downloading and utilizing Gemma 3 and Gemma 4 machine learning models. We also use StreamVR and HTC Vive Business Streaming in order to stream the content from the computers to the head-mounted displays. Currently, the lab is powering research in behavioral analysis, user interaction studies, and synchronized VR and neurophysiological data collection. This research is performed both by academics and students, including mental health therapies like anxiety, depression, and antisocial behavior. It leverages, as mentioned earlier, local machine learning models for AI-powered multilingual conversations, as well as AI-generated 2D 360 images. We are also glad that, based on our further constructive collaboration with Worldviz, some recommendations were implemented and released in the Worldviz future releases. Concluding, the lab provides a solid foundation for immersive data-driven research with the flexibility to evolve toward more advanced multi-user and AI-powered environments, supporting both research and next-generation learning and education. Thank you for your attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Petros. That was super interesting, and it's a huge lab that you've done. And I know Sato was there for over a week putting everything together, and it's just a huge amount of equipment and everything in that space. So it's really impressive, being able to bring all of these folks together in VR headsets, and actually have this workstation lab is awesome. And we're super excited for the years of work to come between the University of Cyprus and Worldviz and our colleagues at BioPack as well. So thanks again for being part of this. It's really great to have you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we're basically coming to an end here, and we still got time for a number of questions. So if anybody's got any questions about what we presented, we'd be happy to answer them here. This is just a little bit about how we can help you plan your lab. So as I showed earlier with the floor plan, and also alluding to how Sato and different folks from Worldviz have helped implement the equipment in Cyprus as well. This is really all we do. We build VR labs. So if you're interested in setting something like this up, we can look at your facilities. We can look at what resources you have, what are your goals, who are the stakeholders, what different departments are going to use this space. And we can really kind of help you design and deliver this entire thing from, basic ideation all the way to training, implementation, and everyday use. So yeah, this is just a little bit of a roadmap to deployment. You've got to know what you want. Then from there, we'll help you design and configure the lab. And after installation, we'll onboard your faculty, and then we have ongoing support services. So it's, yeah, we'd be happy to hear from you. And let me just check. There were a few questions that came in. Oh, we have one more poll here. So if you all don't mind participating in this poll, we'd really love to hear what you'd like us to cover in a future webinar. So we did some content related to AI-based creation today. A few months back, we actually had a dedicated VR plus AI for behavioral research. And that was actually a very detailed webinar. You can find that recording on our YouTube page. You can just go and watch it anytime. So we definitely want to do more of these webinars this year. We've got a lot of different content ideas. So your vote really does matter here right now. Our options: multi-user headset experiences, immersive projection systems, content authoring, AI tools for immersive learning, VR research methods, and best practices. So I'm seeing AI is definitely a hot topic of interest. Like I said, that webinar that we did back in September, October last year, we had some really exciting, vibe coding. We have some pretty powerful tools that we haven't even touched on today that are AI code assistants, and some exciting stuff coming in the near future around that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and end and share these results so y'all can see this. So multi-user VR headset experiences, that was definitely of interest. Content authoring, so getting more into detail on how to use things like e-learning lab, and AI tools for immersive learning being the first place. So yeah, I'm sure we can cover almost all of these topics in future webinars. I'll go ahead and show you guys. This is how you can connect with us. If you'd like to check out our YouTube, we'll also be posting a recording of this webinar. And let's just get into some of these Q&A from before our presentation. So this first question that we got was: some licensed products are single user. What makes it that makes it impossible for generalization? The institution gets the system and the students can't use it out of the classroom. So what's really cool is we actually have a free downloadable version of Vizard and Sightlab, which includes the e-learning lab. It's a demo version, so it has some limitations. The primary limitation is it can't run for more than 5 minutes in a VR mode, but it has all of the authoring capabilities just in that free version. So you can download this today at our website and give it a shot. If you go to worldviz.com, underneath support downloads, this is where you get Vizard and Sightlab. You can just download Sightlab, and that will automatically install Vizard. And from there, if you go to help.worldviz.com/Sightlab, this will give you the full Sightlab VR Pro documentation. You can also request the download link there. But all the material that we covered today, if you check out this examples and templates page, this is all of the stuff that's included with Sightlab that you can just use right off the bat. So, taking eye-tracking data on moving 360 regions of interest, AI agents, which was just a topic that we barely got into today, but if you just take a look at this documentation page, there's a ton of information. How to connect your own customized large language model and characters to the scene. So this is a really popular tool for both research and education. But as you can see, we have lots and lots of example scripts here. And then this is the e-learning lab documentation here that Sato covered. So this is an incredibly detailed page as well. We have video tutorials. So you can really just download this and try it today. And we would be happy to hear what your feedback is on this. Can we make our own VR independently? Absolutely. So that's what we hope to empower you to do here, is to be able to actually, rather than just doing scripted or pre-canned or licensed content that somebody else has made, we want you to be able to actually bring your own content, make your own scene, make your own lesson. Even just bringing your own PowerPoint in and being able to show a student that in an immersive experience or on a large scale wall like the one behind us. Cost and minimal setup for a useful system. This is a great question. So if you go, once again, to our website and you go to blog, VR blog, we just posted this. It's April 13th, so it's been not even 10 days since this went live. The 2026 Worldviz VR budgeting guidelines for scientific VR labs. So in this entire guide, we break down everything. This guide is huge. We've been updating this guide for many years now. We talk about all the different headsets that are available currently, which ones we recommend and why, what their different cost points and actual, resolution and capabilities are, costs for different equipment. But to the minimum cost for a useful system, I would peg at right around $1,300, $1,500 USD, because that's going to get you a pretty decent VR gaming laptop and then a VR headset. probably one of the lower cost Meta headsets, like a Quest 3S or Quest 3. The Meta headsets are awesome, but they don't include eye tracking, which a lot of our research customers really value. And they have some other sort of quirks that make them sometimes difficult to use in an academic setting, but the display for the cost is insane. They're really great headsets. How beginner friendly is the software for new users? Hopefully you were able to see that this is really approachable. We try to make it so that you don't need to be a computer scientist. You don't need to know how to program. You can use these generalized tools that are GUI based, download models that other people have made. Obviously, if you're getting really into the weeds, having Python, understanding of coding in Python, and then also some 3D model experience. So Blender is a really popular tool. But that's where you're really going to be able to actually fully build VR scenes that are completely customized. But we try to give you all of these tools that, allow you to pick up objects, hand them back and forth, join a session with multiple people, add a PDF, add an image, pick up a model and pass it back and forth. So, you can get really far with that without having to write a single line of code. How can I integrate a speech-to-speech AI model in VR to teach practical skills that involve conversations between two people? So this, again, I'm going to go over to our AI agent. This is a really great question, and one that would take probably 30 minutes to answer and completely. But you do have the ability to bring a large language model as an embodied avatar into our site lab and e-learning lab environment. And you can actually talk back and forth as Sato demonstrated earlier. When Sato, did you have something to add about that?
Well, I just want to say, as far as the how, it's literally you would modify a text file, and that creates the role playing. You would drag and drop your avatar into the scene, and then if you wanted to use some other avatar from like Mixamo or whatever, you would download that, drop it in. It really wouldn't take long for setting it up. I mean, the capabilities of it is what would take a long time to explain, because it has so much that it can do. But for creating that, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of folks are doing pretty interesting research with this, because you can basically characterize I want this avatar to be confrontational, right? So that they're really aggressive, right? So there's really rich behavioral research capabilities, as well as just, practical soft skills training once you can combine like a large language model with an immersive virtual environment. So, how compatible or difficult is it to connect an HTC Vive Eye Pro VR headset? Very easy, very compatible. So we have on our website, I'll go back to this again one more time, because I feel like this is kind of a useful space to go to. Under VR software, you go to, well, actually, we'll go to our e-learning lab home really fast. There's supported hardware right here. This gives you a complete list.
Oh, if you click on that link, the top link.
Click here to see the list of supported hardware. Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So this is headsets, motion tracking, projection VR, data acquisition, BioPack, data gloves and haptics, desktop eye trackers, VR treadmills, input devices. I mean, the headset list is quite long. So, and this isn't even a complete list.
Yeah.
Right? So, this is just so it goes on and on. Primarily, our software is Windows PC based, but we are working on some exciting standalone based versions of this. So stay tuned for that in the near future. But right now, everything that you see today is really, being deployed in a Windows PC environment. Let me see. And the HTC Vive Eye Pro, which was, kind of revolutionary 5-6 years ago, a lot of universities acquired that. That's still an awesome headset that is used in research all the time. How do I use VR in the classroom with 60 students? So that's a good question. I mean, Petros is using it in a classroom of 40 VR headsets right now. I think, Petros, primarily you guys are breaking them into smaller focus groups, correct?
Basically, we could have a multi-user environment where all could join using the high head-mounted display in the same shared environment that has been initiated by the instructor. So the host names of each computer basically is registered on the main computer of the instructor acting as the server, and they connect simultaneously through that. If they need to have that multi-user environment. Otherwise, they can also, as a standalone, connect through different environments. It is important also to mention that at our university we use a Microsoft Active Directory, and it was really useful and based on our constructive collaboration, as mentioned earlier, to be able to have a custom installer for that, to be able to have for the students certain permissions, read permissions, not be able to write anything on the computer's hard drives. So we make some custom installers with SADO, and we basically run through students' accounts with their own read-only access, storing the data on, for example, Microsoft OneDrive our cloud service.
So yeah, I think integrations for VR and human anatomy labs. I currently have a MetaQuest 3S headset linked to a 50-inch mobile display. So I think that's a pretty specific question. There are certainly, I mean, we've shown some examples of human anatomy that we have that are included as part of eLearning Lab. There's a lot of different commercial options for licensing models for 3D anatomy. And then it just depends a little bit on your hardware, right? So something like a 3S, there should be some kind of ability to like go online and actually get, MetaQuest games. But if you're looking to take advantage of the Worldviz ecosystem, you'll need to connect it to a PC, and then you can download the SiteLab software, as we said. But you can connect that 3S to your to a laptop and run SiteLab, and there is anatomy content in there that you can take a look at. So yeah, I think that actually concludes our questions. We've gotten some questions in the chat, but I believe we've answered most of those. And they're fairly specific to actual functions within SiteLab. So yeah, I guess that might be a wrap for our presentation today. And we're almost right on time. We're only 2 minutes over. So
and then we have
any final words, Sato? Oh yeah, exactly. Thanks, Sato.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a survey that will go out after this that would be helpful to answer, kind of get some feedback on it, and we'll also have the recording available for this shortly we could share.
Yes, absolutely. So please, we really value your feedback. It helps guide future VR webinars from Worldviz. And again, thank you so much for Petros. I know it's starting to get a little later in the evening there in Cyprus, but we're really grateful for you to join us all the way from the Mediterranean to us here in Santa Barbara. And thanks to everybody from around the world who's joined today. So yeah, without much more to say, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time.